Hey, what's up you guys? My name is Shade and welcome to yet another Final Fantasy XIV guide video. So, in case you haven't heard, Final Fantasy XIV is a big game. A big game full of crafting materials, gear, food, and all kinds of crap. You only have so much inventory space and it can fill up fast. If only there was someone who could retain your items for you. Maybe go out and gather more items sometimes, or even sell them for you. Someone who always greets you with a smile. Someone who cares. Someone who would love nothing more than to satisfy your Hey, she's not real. And this isn't that kind of video. No, in this video, you'll be learning everything you need to know about retainers in Final Fantasy XIV. How to unlock them, what they can do for you, and why you absolutely need them in your life. Especially if you plan on getting into crafting at some point. By the way, I always include detailed timestamps in my video descriptions. Also, be sure to check the pinned comment down below for any additional information that didn't make it into the video. Also, if you have any comments, suggestions, corrections, or feedback of any kind you'd like to share, please feel free. Alright, intro's over. Now let's quickly go over the most useful things retainers can do for you. So, first off, you can use retainers to store extra items. Your main inventory has 140 total item slots, and your Chocobo saddlebag holds an extra 70, or an extra 140 if you pay a little extra every month. Each retainer you make has 175 slots to store items, and you're able to have 2 retainers for free. So that's 350 slots to store items that the game just gives you for free. You can also store gil on your retainers, but there's virtually no reason to do this. Your retainers can't go out and buy items for you on your behalf or anything like that. This isn't Pokemon Gold. Aside from that, retainers can also sell your items on the market board, which is the big, universal, searchable marketplace system in Final Fantasy XIV. If you want to make money in this game, you're almost definitely going to do it by selling items on the market board, and the only way to do that is through your retainer. Speaking of selling items, what exactly do you sell to make money? One of the most popular ways to make money in Final Fantasy XIV is to sell the things that you craft. Of course, you can only craft items if you have the raw materials to make them. Make sense? So how do you get these raw materials? Well, you can go out and manually gather them yourself, or you can have your retainers go out and gather them for you in exchange for tokens called ventures. And trust me when I tell you this, the deeper you get into crafting, the more you'll appreciate your retainers. Alright, so despite what they may tell you, in a nutshell, that's pretty much everything retainers can do for you. Now, how do you get them? Unfortunately, the ability to use retainers is locked behind a quest. Not unfortunately, it's a low-level quest that you'll probably complete long before you even need retainers in the first place. Once you complete the level 17 main story quest, the Scions of the Seventh Dawn, head over to the Retainer Vocate NPC in either Ul'dah, Gridania, or Limsa Lominsa, and you'll be able to create your first retainer. Customize it however you want. Real quick side note, if you ever want to re-customize an existing retainer's appearance or change its name, all you have to do is use a Retainer Fantasia, usually pretty cheap on the market board. Remove all of your retainer's gear, use the Retainer Fantasia, and then talk to a Retainer Vocate NPC again, and you'll be sent back to the character creation screen to make any changes you want. Anyway, once you're done creating your retainer, you'll get to assign it a personality. All this changes is the dialogue that your retainer displays when you talk to it. That's it. After that, you'll have to name your retainer. If you have your retainer sell things for you on the market board, your retainer's name will be visible to everyone, so keep that in mind. Also, you can only give your retainer a name that isn't already being used by another player on your server. It's gotta be unique. And that's it. Congratulations on making your first retainer. Now, at this point, you can go and make a second retainer for free, and I highly recommend that you do so. After that, any additional retainers you want to make will add to your monthly subscription cost, but I'll cover that in more detail later. Okay, so now that you've got a retainer or two, let's go over everything in the retainer menu here in detail. So again, Your retainers provide a lot of additional storage, which is awesome. Once you summon your retainer, click on Entrust or Withdraw Items, and then right-click on whatever you want to deposit or withdraw to move it back and forth between your inventory and your retainer's storage. Again, you can also deposit gil to your retainer, but unless you're carrying 999,999,999 gil, there's no real reason to, and if that is the case, why the hell are you watching this video in the first place? And by the way, whenever your retainer sells an item for you on the market board, they hold onto the gil they made, hoping you'll forget about it. Just click on Entrust or Withdraw Gil to get your money. Speaking of selling your stuff on the market board, each retainer can sell up to 20 things at a time. Selling things is also pretty simple. You just drag whatever you want to sell onto the markets window and then specify the unit price of whatever you're selling and then how many you want to sell. Click on the little button up in the top right and the search results window will appear, allowing you to see what everyone else is currently charging for that particular item. And if you click on the little button in the top right of this window, the history window will open, showing you transaction details for the last 20 times this item was purchased. Alright, so there's a lot I could say about selling items on the market board, but I'll save all of that for another video. I want to keep this one focused on retainers. And now, let's get into the real meat of this video. Let's talk about ventures. So again, aside from storing and selling items, your retainers can also go out and gather items for you, all at the same time. In other words, if you send your retainer out to gather items for you, you can still fully access your item storage and your items are still being sold on the market board the entire time. Before I explain what ventures are and how they work, here's how to unlock them. So after you unlock the ability to create retainers, you just have to complete a quick level 17 quest called an ill-conceived venture. You should find the quest near the main aetheryte in either Olda, Gridania, or Limsa Lominsa. And once that's done, you can start sending them out on ventures. Right after you do one final thing, you've got to assign your retainer a class. Once you do that, you can start leveling it up by sending it out on ventures. Its maximum level is determined by your character's current level of the same class. So, for example, if you've leveled up your character's botanist class to 24, and then you make your retainer a botanist, your retainer's maximum level is 24. Once your character reaches level 25 as a botanist, your botanist retainer's maximum level increases to 25 in tandem. Keep this in the back of your mind while I go over this next point. Retainers can each be assigned one of the following classes: any Disciple of War or Disciple of Magic class, Miner, Botanist, or Fisher. Disciple of War and Magic retainers can gather items that can be obtained by killing things. Horns, fangs, animal goop, things like that. As for Miner retainers, open up your gathering log and look through your two Miner tabs. Miner retainers can gather items found in these tabs. Botanist retainers can gather items found in the two Botanist tabs. And finally, Fisher retainers can obtain fish found in the fishing log. By the way, a quick little side note about Disciple of War and Magic classes. Again, you can assign your retainer any Disciple of War or Magic class, besides Blue Mage. And all Disciple of War and Magic classes are equally capable of gathering the same items. Like, DPS classes are not more effective at gathering items than healers, for example. If you're going to assign your retainer one of these classes though, I'd advise you to assign it one of your main classes. Like, if you main Black Mage, then make your retainer a Thaumaturge. Why? Because your retainer is going to need gear, and if it uses the same gear as your main class, then you can just give it your old hand-me-down gear instead of constantly having to go out and buy separate gear just for your retainer. So basically, treat your retainers like a little brother or sister. They don't deserve new stuff. They'll wear your dirty, old, hard leather subligar and like it. Also, remember how your retainer's maximum level is determined by your character's maximum level of the same class? If you assign your retainers the classes you like playing the most, then you'll never wind up having to level up boring classes just so your retainers can continue to level up. This was a mistake that I made for a long time until I just said screw it one day and reset them. Past Shade was young and stupid. Don't be like him. By the way, speaking of resetting retainers, after you assign your retainer a class, you can change its class later, but its level will be reset back to 1. So it's best to just assign them the right class right from the start. Alright, so I guess this would be a good time to mention that, just like your character, your retainers also start out with a base class like Thaumaturge that can be upgraded into a full job like Black Mage. There are a few things you have to do to assign your retainer a job. First, talk to a retainer vocate NPC and click on Inquire about Retainer Jobs, and then click on Purchase a copy of Modern Vocation. You'll have to pay 40 venture coins to get it. After that, summon your retainer and click on Assign Retainer Job, and then pick the job you want to assign your retainer. In order to assign your retainer a certain job, you must meet the specific requirements for that job. Here's a list of all the Disciple of War and Disciple of Magic jobs that you can assign your retainers. The column on the left shows the base class that your retainer must currently have in order to upgrade to a particular job. The middle column shows the level that your retainer must be in order to be assigned that job. And the column on the right shows the level that your character must reach for that job. Just in case that was a little too confusing just now, here are a couple of examples. In order to assign your retainer the Scholar job, your retainer must specifically be an Arcanist, it must be at least level 30, and your character must reach level 50 as a Scholar. In order to assign your retainer the Dark Knight job, your retainer can be any base Disciple of War or Disciple of Magic class, such as Gladiator, but it cannot have already been assigned a full job, such as Paladin. It must also be at least level 50, and your character must reach level 50 as a Dark Knight. By the way, just to be extra clear, like your retainer's base class, you can't change your retainer's job without completely resetting it back to level 1. So, for example, if you make your Conjurer retainer into a White Mage, and then later decide you want it to be an Astrologian, you'll need to reset your retainer back to level 1 and then start leveling it up all over again. Incidentally, the only benefit your retainers actually get from having a job as opposed to just a base class is that they're able to equip gear that can only be used by that job. Like, you do get a very small stat boost when you assign your retainer a job, but the only stat that Disciple of War and Disciple of Magic retainers actually benefit from is their eye level, and that isn't affected. Alright, that should cover everything about retainer jobs. Now let's go back to talking about base classes. Alright, so here's the big question. Disciples of War and Magic, Miner, Botanist, Fisher, what should you choose? Honestly, that depends on who you ask. People seem to disagree on this point quite a bit. Before I share my thoughts on this though, I need to explain one last thing. That's enough about classes for now. Let's go back to talking about ventures for a bit. So, you can send your retainers out on timed quests called ventures to collect items for you in exchange for tokens, which for some stupid reason are also called ventures. To avoid confusing you guys, I'm going to refer to the timed quests as venture quests, and I'll refer to the tokens as venture coins. Anyway, to send your retainer out on a venture quest, summon your retainer and then just choose Assign Venture. There are 3 types of venture quests you can send them out on: Gathering Ventures, Long Exploration Ventures, and Quick Exploration Ventures. The specific names of these venture quests depend on your retainer's class, by the way. That's why you're seeing 4 windows right now. Anyway, let's talk about Gathering Venture quests first. Basically, these allow you to send your retainers out to gather specific items of your choosing. Miner, Botanist, and Fisher retainers can only gather things that you've gathered at least once yourself. Open up your gathering log really quick. If you don't see a yellow check mark next to an item, it means you haven't gathered it yet, and you won't be able to send your retainer out to get some until you do. Gathering Venture quests cost 1 venture coin, last between 40 to 60 minutes, and the amount of items your retainer brings back depends on what they're gathering and your retainer's stats. For example, if you send out a level 80 retainer with good gear to gather level 5 items, It'll finish faster and gather more items than a level 5 retainer would. Leveling up your retainers by sending them out on gathering venture quests is great because it allows you to stock up on materials that you can later use for crafting. They also usually get you the highest, most consistent experience if you're continuously sending out your retainers. Next, let's go over long exploration ventures. These allow you to send your retainer out to gather a random item out of a relatively small pool of items. Most of the time though, you'll wind up with worthless junk. Long exploration ventures cost 2 venture coins and last 18 hours. That all sounds pretty bad so far, but the upside to long exploration ventures is that they give, on average, 4 to 5 times as much experience as a single gathering venture. So actually they're great for leveling up if you want to conserve as many venture coins as possible. Finally, that brings us to quick exploration ventures. These allow you to send your retainer out to gather a random item from a single, very large pool of items that's shared by all classes. Quick exploration ventures cost 2 venture coins and last 1 hour flat. You'll burn through venture coins really fast if you constantly send your retainers out on these, but that's not really a problem though. I'll explain why in a minute. Just like the items, the experience you get is also random. Sometimes it's really high, but most of the time, at least in my experience, it's usually quite a bit lower than what you would get from normal gathering ventures. With all of that said though, I recently uploaded a video where I sent my retainers out on 100 quick exploration ventures to test their viability, and I learned a few things. By the way, keep in mind that what you get back from quick exploration ventures is totally random. So all of what I'm about to say is deep within your mileage may vary territory. Also keep in mind that I ran my test with maxed out level 80 retainers. That said, the test was completely unbiased and I really tried to squeeze as much value as possible out of what I got back from those 100 ventures. Alright, so first of all, the huge majority of the gear I got back was untradeable junk. And while I couldn't sell any of it on the market board, I could turn it into my grand company in exchange for company seals, which I could then exchange for more venture coins. I spent exactly 200 venture coins during my test, and according to my calculations, I could exchange all of my untradeable gear for about 336 venture coins. In other words, even though quick exploration ventures burn through coins really fast, it seems like they're actually pretty self-sustaining, which honestly surprised me quite a bit. Secondly, you definitely can make money from quick exploration ventures, but unless you have incredibly good luck, you'll almost definitely be able to make more money if you send your retainers out to gather materials for crafting instead. But the challenge there, of course, is finding the right things to craft and sell, which tends to fluctuate wildly and varies heavily from server to server. You'll probably also be competing with other people for the lowest prices too, which can also get really annoying. And that leads me to my final and probably most important point about quick exploration ventures. Unlike crafting, in addition to being quick exploration ventures are easy as hell to do. Okay, so here's a quick little recap on all 3 venture types. Gathering ventures are good for leveling up fast if you've got the venture coins for it, and they're great for stocking up on raw materials for crafting, or even just selling in some cases. Long exploration ventures are great for leveling up at a moderate pace while conserving a whole lot of venture coins. Quick exploration ventures aren't great for leveling up. They also probably won't make you as much money as gathering ventures could, but they will make you money, eventually. And they seem to be pretty self-sustaining, so you shouldn't really have to worry about running out of venture coins. So, if you don't have the time or the patience to invest in crafting and dealing with all of the crap that goes into selling on the market board, send your retainers out on quick exploration ventures as often as you can, and just cross your fingers for some pure white or jet black dyes. And be sure to check prices on anything that even looks like it might be valuable, especially furniture and level 1 gear with no stats or class requirements. And finally, be sure to run over to your grand company to trade your junk gear for more venture coins when your inventory starts getting full. Alright, so speaking of venture coins, how do you get them anyway? Well, I've mentioned my personal favorite method a few times already, but for the sake of completion, there are 3 ways you can stock up on venture coins very quickly. You can buy venture coins for 4 Centurio seals each at the Forgotten Knight in Ishgard. You can buy them for 4 allied seals each at your Grand Company, or, like I said before, you can buy them for 200 company seals also at your Grand Company. If you join a lot of hunt trains and have way more Centurio seals and allied seals than you know what to do with, then you already have an easy source of venture coins. My favorite way to stock up on venture coins, though, of course, is to buy them with company seals. And one very easy way to get a lot of company seals is to turn in all the junk gear you get from running dungeons, raids, retainer ventures, whatever. So, while you're out running your roulettes every day, don't hesitate to hit greed on gear if you're running low on venture coins. Aside from that, you can also turn in certain items into your Grand Company to get some very nice experience for all of your crafting and gathering jobs too. You can turn these items in once per day, and of course, these also reward you with a pretty good amount of company seals. And if you turn in high quality items, you get double the experience and double the company seals. In my experience, if you turn items into your Grand Company every day, you basically should never run out of venture coins. In the past, I have been able to keep 9 retainers going out on ventures pretty frequently by doing this. Alright, now that we've got all of that covered, remember way back when I said, so here's the big question. Disciples of War and Magic, Miner, Botanist, Fisher, what should you choose? Let's talk about that now. So here's what I think. The most important difference between classes that retainers can have are the items that they're able to gather, and the vast majority of these items should be used as materials for crafting. Disciple of War and Magic retainers are able to gather items that can normally be gathered by killing things. And of course, Miner, Botanist, and Fisher retainers are able to gather items that can normally be gathered through mining, botany, and fishing. So, what's the best class for retainers? In my opinion, the better question to ask is, which classes can gather the most items that are useful for crafting? Let's start with the easy one, Fisher. So, full transparency, I do not have a Fisher retainer right now. I haven't had one for about a good year or so, in fact. My current opinion is based entirely on my past experiences, along with a whole lot of research I've done specifically for this guide video. Anyway, my opinion is, you don't need a Fisher retainer. You can make money with Fisher retainers, of course, but not nearly as much as you can make with other classes. And that's mostly because fish are just far less useful than the types of crafting materials that the other classes are able to gather. And despite the fact that all servers have completely independent economies, most of the forum posts and comments I've read about this seem to agree on this point. So I actually have a lot more to say about this, but after I finished typing up the script for this section, I realized that my full explanation on this was a little too complex for this video. I think it would probably confuse beginner players more than anything, so instead of including it in the video, I'm leaving it fully typed out in the pinned comment down below for those of you who are interested. Anyway, that's enough about Fisher. Let's talk about all the other classes you have to choose from. Disciples of War and Magic, Miner, and Botanist. To be honest, this is where things get a lot more subjective online. But I think the reason for that is very simple. They're all really useful. You can't really go wrong with any of them. In my own personal, totally subjective opinion though, I would say that Miner is the best retainer class, followed by Botanist, and then all of the Disciple of War and Magic classes. Again, if you want to hear my reasoning on this, check the pinned comment down below for a super thorough explanation. So again, when you unlock retainers, you can make 2 retainers for free. I would suggest that you make the first one a Miner and the second one a Botanist. And if you decide to add a 3rd retainer to your monthly subscription, I would make that your main Disciple of War or Magic class. And then for additional retainers after that, I would just repeat the pattern. Miner, Botanist, Disciple of War and Magic, Miner, Botanist, etc. Alright, and that's all I have to say about retainer classes. Now, there's one final thing I want to talk about before I wrap up this section on venture quests, and it has to do with the gear that your retainers wear. I'll keep this one super simple. The only stat that benefits Disciple of War and Magic retainers in any way is their eye level. For retainers, that's literally the only thing that matters. All other stats are completely meaningless. Similarly, the only stat that benefits Miner, Botanist, and Fisher retainers in any way is the Gathering stat. This means that when gearing your retainers, you can just ignore gear that only increases Perception or GP. They won't help your retainers at all. And eye level also doesn't matter for Miner, Botanist, and Fisher retainers, by the way. Okay, and that finally wraps up the section on retainer ventures. So, a little while ago, you heard me mention that you can get additional retainers. Here's what to do if 350 item slots just isn't enough to support your awful hoarder-ass lifestyle. There are two ways you can get more retainers, and they both increase your monthly subscription cost. First, log into your account on the MOG station, and then go to the Your Account tab up in the top left. You'll find your two options for more retainers down in the Additional Paid Options section, Retainer Service and Companion App. Click on Retainer Service, and then Manage Retainer Service down the page a little bit, and you'll get to change the number of additional retainers you have. Each extra retainer you add is going to cost you an extra $2 per month. Alternatively, go back to the Your Account tab, click on Companion App, and you'll get the option to upgrade the companion app on your phone to the quote-unquote premium version. Doing this will cost you an extra $5 per month. Honestly, I don't think the companion app itself is all that useful, so I won't cover it in this video. There are two really nice advantages in-game that come with this premium upgrade though. First, it allows you to hire one extra retainer, which alone would cost you $2 per month. The other thing you get access to is a second Chocobo saddlebag, which basically gives you an extra 70 item slots of storage for your character. Personally, I would say, if you're thinking about adding another retainer to your subscription anyway, consider whether having 70 extra item slots for your character is worth $3 a month to you. If it is, go for the premium app for $5 a month. If not, just add the one retainer for $2 a month. And speaking of paying real money on retainers, you can buy items on the MOG station to instantly level them up. At the time of this video's recording, using one of these items will get your retainer all the way to level 70, and they cost $9 for a single retainer, $25.50 for 3 retainers, or $40.50 for 5 retainers. Remember that your retainer's class level can't exceed your own though. In other words, if you use this to level up your White Mage retainer up to 70, but you only ever got to level 56 as a White Mage on your character, then your White Mage retainer will only be boosted to level 56. I've never bought one of these, but apparently once you get this item, you'll get an increased retainer level option when you summon your retainer. Personally, I would advise against buying these since it's already very easy to level up your retainers to begin with. Like, I would say, if you're sending your retainers out on long exploration ventures every day, which would only cost you 2 venture coins per day, then you could probably get your retainer to level 70 in like, maybe 3 to 4 weeks. And of course, they'll hit 70 much sooner if you frequently send them out on gathering ventures. Okay, and that's all I have to say about retainers, I think. Wow, this guide turned out to be a lot longer than I was expecting. I totally didn't appreciate just how complicated retainers were until I wrote the script for this video. Looking back at everything I wrote, I'm glad I took the time to make this one. This was a ton of information. Well, sorry about this video being so long, but I try to be as thorough as possible when making guides like this. I want the video itself to answer as many potential questions as possible, but if I totally failed and you do have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them down below. And be sure to check out the pinned comment too. If there are any corrections I need to make or there's any additional info I want to add, that's where you'll find it. And if you know of any new players who would benefit from this video, please consider sharing it with them. Retainers are incredibly useful, and the earlier new players know how to use them, the better off they'll be. Especially since it's so easy to screw up your retainers' classes like I did. If you like this video, please give it a quick like, and if you want to see more videos like this, subscribe and click the bell to get notified when I upload new videos every Saturday-ish. I'm working as hard as I can to put out high-quality guides as quickly as possible. Seriously, thank you guys so much for your support. I appreciate it a lot more than I can say. And besides this channel, I've also got a Let's Play channel, which is where I get some of the footage in these guide videos. I'm playing through Final Fantasy XIV on a new alt alongside a few other games right now. There's a link in the description if you want to check it out. Alright, that's it. I have officially run out of things to say. Thanks for watching. I hope you learned something. See you later. What? Turning off cross-platform play disables online multiplayer altogether? That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard!